Flex your business with an American Express Business Gold Card. You'll earn 4 times membership rewards points on your top 2 eligible spending categories, like transit and electronics, each month, on up to $150K in combined purchases per year. Plus, you can now earn 3 times membership rewards points on flights and prepaid hotels booked on AmexTravel.com. Terms and points cap apply. Learn more at AmericanExpress.com/business-gold. Amex Business Gold, built for business by American Express.
Auto insurance can all seem the same until it comes time to use it. So don't get stuck paying more for less coverage. Switch to USAA Auto Insurance and you could start saving money in no time. Get a quote today. Restrictions apply. USAA.
It's not at all like American Pie, which is that vibe of men just trying to pull women. One of my favourite scenes is the wedding. I think it's just in contrast to our perfectly manicured Instagram-worthy lives at the moment. A wedding where it absolutely pisses it down, the marquee collapses in on you, and the bride's wearing red. I think it really makes me laugh, and it really makes me laugh when Tom Holland gives the umbrella to the lady walking up the hill that's slightly broken, and he just marches on ahead of her like, yeah, you deal with that.
Hey everyone, and welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher Podcast. Today I'm joined by Hannah.
Woo!
And Georgie.
Hello.
And Helen.
Hello.
And we're going to be watching About Time.
Thank you as always to the mighty people for the mighty tunes, and thanks to Ben from Rockwood Audio for his awesome editing skills.
Please do remember to write a review and rate us on Apple Podcasts and anywhere you can do where you listen to the podcast, because it really does help us.
And you can join in the conversation with us on Twitter
at FlixWatcherPod and on Instagram
at Flixwatcher. Hello film fans, welcome to this episode of Flixwatcher Podcast. In our studio today we have Hannah and Georgie. If you would like to say hello to our listeners and tell them a little bit about what you do.
Hello everyone, my name is Hannah Russell. I am the founder of a podcast studio called Mags Creative, and we make podcasts including the likes of the Deliciously Ella podcast, Castaway, Limitless, and lots of other quite good, I hope, shows here in the UK. And I have known Georgie Grier since we were 5 years old. So over to you now.
That's me. Hello, I'm Georgie Grier. I'm an actor and I host a podcast called the Screenster Podcast, on which I talk to filmmakers, people in the industry about the film and television world, about their jobs and what they're watching. So that ranges from everyone to script supervisors, to directors, to other actors.
Yeah, so you had a catering company on there, the female-founded catering company.
I did. I had a location caterer, the wonderful Nicola Smith. I thought that, you don't often hear interviews with people like location caterers, even though they're a vital part of the film and television world. So that was my purpose with the podcast. I wanted to speak to people that you might not normally speak to and hear some of their pearls of wisdom.
So I've got a friend who's a cameraman, and he's worked on quite a few different films and TV shows. He used to work in Shameless a lot when he's still going to Manchester, and that was a big kind of beating heart for him. Was like, if the crew don't get fed, Kobe.
It's very important.
Yeah,
it is very important. Yeah. Because, if you don't get fed, you get hangry.
Yeah.
Yes.
And no one likes a hangry person.
No. I've been on a few TV sets, and I was very surprised at how good the food was.
Yes.
Like lamb shanks and stuff. And I was like, I'm glad I'm just here for a day, because I couldn't eat this every day and stay.
What's the vibe?
Yeah.
Is it healthy? Is it burgers?
I was only there for a couple of days, so I just went to town.
It's like event catering as well at festivals and events, very carby.
Well, that's what's interesting, because Nicola, for example, was telling me that she wanted to change that, and how when you're working such long hours and you're possibly away from home, you need to have more than just, burger and chips, and actually remember that
you're still needing to be healthy.
Exactly. So that's what I found quite interesting.
So today we are talking about time. And that was your choice, wasn't it, Hannah?
It absolutely is my choice. It was the only choice it could ever be. It's my favourite film.
So can you give us a 1-minute synopsis and give us a bit more of a reason why you chose it, apart from it being your favourite film?
So About Time is just a brilliant film, I think. It was released in 2013. It was directed by Richard Curtis, and it's got an amazing... written by Richard Curtis. The cast ranges from the wonderful Rachel McAdams to Bill Nighy, Margot Robbie. And I mean, when you describe the story, it shouldn't sound great, but it works. Essentially, the male members of the Lake family are all able, you learn, to travel back in time. So the men are able to walk into a dark cupboard, choose a moment in their past life that they want to revisit and change something, and they're able to go back and do that. And the story evolves really beautifully, I think, between the main character, Tim Lake, which is played by, I don't know how to pronounce his name, actually. Domhnall Gleeson. Domhnall. Yeah. Domhnall Gleeson. And he's just a brilliant character, and he ends up falling in love with the brilliant Rachel McAdams, and his father, Bill Nighy, has sort of imparted this piece of knowledge to him, which initially he just really doesn't believe, and then
goes to town with it,
starts to use it, and the story unfolds from there. And I chose it because, for me, I mean, I've seen it lots of times.
She never stops talking about it.
I think it's just I think there's a line at the end of the film where they talk about an extraordinary, ordinary life, and I think that it portrays that really beautifully, the kind of ordinary details of life and how actually they can be savoured and they can be really meaningful and they can be really important. And it's just a really lovely story, and it's written really well as well, I think. So
I'm going to go to you at some point during this to unpick a few bits, because I've only seen it once, and I didn't quite understand a few of the things that were going on there.
And I think it's definitely flawed. I think there's definitely flaws, but I think, to me, the overarching message is just quite a heartwarming, uplifting one.
Sure. Helen, your thoughts on About Time?
Oh, God.
Why did you say? It's like you've listened to an episode before and know what Helen thinks about films.
Because you build something up and then you look over and you think, nah, she's not agreeing.
We do come to me for the second one.
Yeah.
I had a different experience of this film.
How many times have you seen it, first of all?
So I have seen the first half hour twice now.
What does that mean?
Half hour twice? What do you mean?
So you went in a second time?
So the first time I watched the half hour of it, and I was like, I literally cannot watch any more of this. I'm going to have to leave the room. Then the film carried on with the people I was living with, and they watched it, and I did not. And then, obviously, for the podcast, I had to go back and sit through the whole 2 hours and 4 minutes. I'm sure we'll have lots of discussion about it, but I had a few struggles, but I want to hear what everyone else said.
No, we defer to yourself as a second opinion. You can lean in a bit more if you want.
This is a film about a guy who goes back in time to resolve the one struggle he has in life is that he can't pull. So in terms of like storytelling, we have a hero and they have to overcome some kind of struggle along their journey when you're telling a story. His struggle is he can't pull in his 20s. He discovers that he can be a time traveller, and he goes back in time and essentially keeps going back in time until he can force someone he's only just met to fall in love with him
by slightly tricking her,
slightly creepy way, which we're meant to find charming and adoring. And there's quite a lot of white male privilege in here, which is a slight Richard Curtis thing, but slightly comes out. And Kate Moss. So what I got was that. What's Rachel McAdams' character's name?
Mary.
Her thing is Kate Moss.
Yeah, she
Why
loves
is that
Kate
a
Moss.
thing? I don't know.
People like cats all of,
They do, but that's not like her main character thing. And yeah, I get this story that it's meant to sort of say, we should treasure our time that we have people together. But yeah, I didn't. It's not really my thing.
It's fair enough. Georgie?
Well, I loved it, but I've had to watch it like 5 times to sort of understand it. So Kobe, I'm really fascinated by the fact that you have seen it once, because I think I only just began to understand after 5 or 6 attempts. I do agree with Hannah. I think it is flawed in that it still hurts my brain a tiny bit trying to understand the flashes back to time and how that actually sits. But overall, I just have memories of sitting with my mum and smiling and laughing and also crying. And for me, that is quite, when I get those moments with my mum when she's laughing hysterically, that means a lot to me. So
that's Richard Curtis kind of through and through, isn't it? It's kind of like safe-ish for a wide brand of people.
Yeah.
But then if you have people who can kind of tend to be more cineast or more refined taste, as you say, then kind of like it can fall flat for some people like that, I'd say.
And I think it's one of those films that I haven't interrogated too deeply. So I think if you look at it through the lens of white male privilege or exactly how does this time travel work, and actually there are a few moments where perhaps it is quite flawed. For me, it is a film I watch completely at surface level.
Sure.
And it warms my heart, and I love Uncle Desmond. I just find him hilarious. And so I think if you take it a little bit at face value, it's slightly different. But when you do start to pick it apart, it's probably
I actually have no problem with the time travel. I really enjoy time travel in films, and I don't think you can ever properly explain it. So the time travel I was fine about, apart from the fact that they say that, spoiler, no women are allowed to travel in it, and someone does travel in it, which is a bit like,
this is true. This is very true.
Which is a bit annoying.
So that's when
you break your
its
own rules within a film, it's a bit like, but we've just gone with you on everything you've gone before to believe in time travel, and then you go, oh, so women could have done it after all. So you could have actually given it to women to time travel rather than men having all of the power to go back in time and change things for themselves.
Or at least he could have travelled with women all the time rather than just
on his own.
But he does. Is that what you were saying? He does travel with his sister once. Yeah.
For me, to be honest, I think this is probably my favourite Richard Curtis film.
Is it?
Yeah.
I've only watched 4 Weddings.
More than 4. I've only seen 4 Weddings a few times, and that was when it first kind of came out. So I've not reviewed it. I've not seen it since. So maybe I should watch it again. But I was very reluctant to watch this when it first came out because the idea of the film didn't sit with me in any way, shape, or form. Which is essentially what your main problem with it, Helen, was that this is a guy who can't pull and finds out he can time travel, so he can try and pull better. And I was like, I don't want that in the film. I'm fine with that. I'm already kind of over the American Pie thing where it's just about guys going out and pull to do that. And I was like, I don't need that in my filmic watching. And there is that element at the start, but quickly kind of moves away from that. And I thought it was going to be a lot more leery than it was, and just like, oh, I can pull it. I'm going to try a different line. I'm going to try a different line. I'm going to try a different line. And with Margot Robbie's character, he kind of tries that, but then it doesn't. If he does do it more, then it doesn't really lean into it. And I thought then, when he met Rachel McAdams on that really cool kind of dark date night that they had, and they exchanged numbers, and he went back to help his uncle or his dad's friend, and then realised he lost her number. I thought he was going to go hit it up again and again and again and again and again to try, and I thought that was going to be the thrust of the film. But it quickly just wasn't that. It wasn't about that. It was like, I found this girl now, and I'm going to slightly creepily stalk her, but I'm because I know we got on so well that time when it wasn't like a genuine connection. So I was like, oh, cool. But then the rest of the time he uses the time travel thing. It's like help his sister who's like clearly struggling, and then spend more time with his dad when he realizes his dad's like suffering with cancer. So then it becomes like this film of like, oh shit, he's like just wants to spend more time with his family and like help these people out. So quickly became the original high level synopsis of the film sounds for me like horrible, but when you watch it, I was like, oh shit, this is actually a lot more layered and nuanced than I thought it would be. So like I just kind of melted away and kind of let it slide. But there were some things I think the main thing I didn't get was how he couldn't travel far back he couldn't go further back than his kids, or that was a bit that I couldn't understand.
And he does it once, and then he has a different kid, but then he sort of manages to correct it, and it's all sort of brushed over a little bit. So I think that is, and then his dad dies, and then his wife wants another kid. Big spoiler, sorry.
No, spoilers are allowed.
And then he's not able to go back and visit his dad who's passed away anymore because they decide to have another child. Yeah. So, but I think it's slightly brushed over when he sort of makes the mistake, and then he's like, oh, but I'm able to correct it now. Yeah.
And because I was just a little passing conversation. Oh, so I can't go back before the child... Oh, no, because sperm is different each time. Yeah. And the time travel thing, I think if you try and explain time travel or how things work, like in Groundhog Day, Ivan Reitman, the director, tried to work out in his head, to try and explain how he was looping, but then just kind of realised if you try and do that, it's just going to take away from the film. You just kind of go, this happens, deal with it, and it's fine. And when Tim Minchin did his version of Groundhog Day, the musical, he was just like, in my head, I want it to be enough time that someone's able to not have played the piano ever to be able to be like amazing at it, and that's the kind of constraint that he had. And when you kind of think, okay, you can time travel, go into a dark room, bit silly. Sometimes he didn't even go into a dark room. Sometimes he went into a cloakroom that had a light fully on. I was like, dude, come on, at least play by, like you say, Helen, play by your rules. But apart from that, I was like, yeah, I quite like it. Generally.
On the time travel thing, my favourite moments of the time travel was when it would happen really quickly. For example, when he meets Mary's parents and she's like, don't mention oral sex. And he says, we've definitely not had oral sex. And then he just goes back and does it like 3 more times.
Or when he does the sun cream on her back and he buggers it up and then he goes back and does it. I like it when
he does that and he's trying to correct a very specific situation and you see it happen in sort of like 3 or 4 different ways.
And I think he's a hard cat. When you're talking about it being about him desperately trying to pull, I just think it's not at all like American Pie, which is that vibe of men just trying to pull women. And so I think there's something really endearing about his character that is so goofy. And so he's not cool and he's not actually very slick at doing this, but actually it allows him to correct some of the like really stupid things he says or stupid things he does. So it's a little bit more endearing than just like, hey, I'm going to manipulate these women. A little bit like that, but yeah.
And what I liked about it was that at least in the first instance, he was never going to get with Margot Robbie at that time because it just, no matter how they tried to spin it, it wasn't going to happen. And so I like that kind of nuance of it. And even that with the sun cream bit, where the first time he was like super Mr. Uncool, and then the second time was, yeah, just a minute.
Yeah, that's great.
I was like,
almost a bit too much the other way.
Yeah. So that's why I think it's because I just think it was a bit heart-grabbing, heart-wrenching when he realised he couldn't, no matter how the film worked, he wasn't going to be able to see his dad again, even though there was kind of a nice kink in his family lineage that meant that he could time travel and spend time with revisit things again. But this time was like everyone else, I guess, this is definitely the last time you're going to be able to spend with your dad. And
that relationship for me, I think, is just really lovely. The father-son relationship there, I think, is such a powerful one. And Bill Nighy, I think, plays such a lovable character, imparting this wisdom onto his son. And I think you really feel that lovely father-son relationship between the two of them. Yeah.
I think when he first told his dad, when he first told Domhnall Gleeson, can't remember what his name is, and he just went, no, don't worry about trying to make money because it's not going to work for you.
Yeah.
Kind of brushed away a lot of the things, because obviously there probably were earlier versions of scripts where they tried to play with money and he tried to play that kind of thing, but it just wasn't going to get to the thrust of the film. I do think it's, romantic comedy, family kind of tragedy, I think is a touch long. I also like him with Kit as well. That's what I was saying, because it's him trying to spend more time with his dad and Kit, who's going through a lot of trouble. And that's, as you see Kit kind of degrading through the film, you're like, oh, she's not good. But I didn't think at any point he was going to try and help her out and do those things, which are really, I thought, yeah, that's my thoughts so far on About Time.
Can I ask a question?
Of course you can.
There's some really strong characters in the film. Do you have a favourite?
Who are the strong characters?
Well, I just think they've all got such wonderful and funny personalities, like Mary's friend.
She's great.
And then what's her name? I know, can I guess who your favourite character is?
You can.
Hannah.
Go on.
Is it Bernard? No, wait, hang on. What's the uncle called?
The uncle is called Desmond.
Okay, is it Desmond?
I find him really funny. I like it when he gives her a £1 coin and he folds her fingers around the coin and says, "Don't spend it all at once, dear." I just think it's really funny.
I kind of like Tom Holland's character.
Yes, he's brilliant.
Because I thought he was taking a piss when he first meets Domhnall Gleeson, but he generally wasn't. He's just generally like that kind of acerbic, like crotchety character. And I was like, okay, fair enough. That's who you are.
And this one of my favourite scenes is the wedding. I think it's just in contrast to our perfectly manicured, Instagram-worthy lives at the moment. A wedding where it absolutely pisses it down, the marquee collapses in on you, and the bride's wearing red. I think it really makes me laugh, and it really, really makes me laugh when Tom Holland gives the umbrella to the lady walking up the hill that's slightly broken, and he just like marches on ahead of her like, yeah, you deal with that.
He's so great. My favourite character though has to be Rory, the friend of Tim.
Yeah.
I just love him. When he forgets his own name because he's been so blindsided by Margot Robbie's character is one of my actual favourite moments of the entire film.
Roger. No. I mean, what do you think what's his name again? Domhnall Gleeson's character?
Tim Lane.
Tim, so I think...
Tim Lake, isn't it?
Lake, yeah.
Tim Lake. I feel I would have liked his mother to have a bigger role in this show, in this film. Thoughts, Helen?
I guess it does feel from what I got kind of a male vehicle, in that the male characters kind of got the best lines and the more exposure. I mean, my favourite character was the sister, who
Kit Kat,
is kind of in the background. I kind of would have liked to have spent more time with her and kind of, seeing what was going on behind the scenes with her, because we only really kind of get the projection from Tim about how he's seeing what's going on from her, rather than actually sort of seeing what's going on. So that would have, I think for me, that would have given it a bit more kind of depth. Because even Rachel McAdams, I didn't think was as sparky as she normally is for me. I think she's a bit dowdy in this. I don't know if it's the fringe or something. It is too short, by the way.
Careful what you
Two
say,
fringes
Helen.
in the room.
We've got 2 fringes here.
I was quite surprised how much time we spent with Kit Kat, because I thought quickly, once he left Cornwall, wherever, I thought they weren't going to see any of them again. So I was quite surprised that she stayed at his house and they had that relationship, and she was there when they tried to meet creepily in the Kate Moss exhibition, which is an odd thing. So I was quite surprised that they were there. But I think Kit Kat's a great character, really sparky, and you can kind of see also how people from the same family can go different ways if something kind of goes wrong from the start.
Yeah.
I thought she was feisty, and also when he couldn't save her and have, he couldn't have it both ways, and had to say, well, had to realise that she's going to have the accident to kind of keep things on that kind of trajectory, but then they could still try and help out afterwards and say, well, this guy might be boring, but he loves you to bits, and there's a safer pair of hands maybe. But maybe guiding towards that, his best friend was maybe a bit on the creepier side of there.
Do you know, one of the lines that sticks with me from that film is a line that Kit Kat says when she says, "Perhaps I'm the faller of the family." And I often think about that, and I often wonder whether it's true, and whether there are fallers in families, and whether there's a faller in my family, and whether I'm the faller. And I just think it's a really poignant line, and sometimes I'll be sitting in a coffee shop sipping on a cappuccino and I'll think about it. And yeah, you're right. I just really like her sparkiness, and I love that she runs into a room and kisses Mary all over. At first, when I watched it, I was like, oh, that's a bit too much. But, if she did that to me, I wouldn't mind. In a sibling way.
She feels very real, I think.
Yeah, she does.
Should we head to the scores then?
Yeah.
Hey there, Ryan Reynolds here. It's a new year, and you know what that means. No, not the diet. Resolutions. A way for us all to try and do a little bit better than we did last year. And my resolution, unlike big wireless, is to not be a raging and raise the price of wireless on you every chance I get. Give it a try at mintmobile.com/switch.
$45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 per month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Taxes and fees extra. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited. See mintmobile.com for details.
Welcome to the Flixwatcher spreadsheet of dreams. This is where we do our magical scoring. All of our scores are out of 5. You may have decimal places, and we will start with you, Hannah, with the recommendability, please.
So as long as I didn't have to recommend it to you, I think I'd give this a I'd probably give this a 4 because I think there are definitely people for whom I wouldn't recommend this to.
So what do they describe these people?
Helen.
Yes, it's me.
So how do you know Helen before? Would you go, not for you, Helen?
No, I wouldn't. I would have said definitely for you, Helen. It's for everyone. No, I think people who aren't prepared. I think it's to enjoy this film. I think you need to be able to suspend too much critical analysis and just enjoy it for what it is, which is a fairly light, heartwarming, possibly male-dominated film that actually has some really lovely, funny, heartwarming moments. I've used heartwarming lots of times. So I'd say 4 out of 5 there.
Georgie, and you can go to decimal places, guys, if you want.
Yes.
Out of 5?
Yeah.
Okay. Can I go to quarter? Wait, hang on. A decimal place is a quarter. Is it? I don't know. I would go to 4.3 because I just think that it's just really uplifting, and if you do give it a chance and you do see it through to the end, it might put a spring in your step. But I acknowledge that it has several flaws.
Okay. Helen.
So I have had various conversations with some other people.
Yeah.
And they shared my view. But then saying that the people who carried on watching it when I left the room had a lovely time with it. We were very hungover. Which may have been why I couldn't watch it. Might have been where they could have gone all the way through. I mean, this if you like Richard Curtis films, then you will probably like this. I would find it very, 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 very unlikely if you'd liked all of his other stuff and you didn't find something to enjoy in this. I will give it a 3 for the benefit that Richard Curtis has lots of fans, and if you like his films, you will like this.
I'm going to go for a 4. And I would definitely recommend it to more people than I wasn't, like I said at the start, I wasn't looking forward to watching it. I wasn't like, oh, yay, they've chosen About Time. I was like, well, it's about time
It's about time. I watched About Time.
And I was like I said, I was genuinely surprised that it wasn't just about him on the pole, which is the strap line. And I was genuinely surprised that it did have those kind of not super gut punching moments, but there were kind of weightier moments where you have to make tough decisions. And I'm glad that's the kind of trajectory it went down, rather than him just trying to leer over Margot Robbie. And one thing I did quite like was that when he could have pulled Margot Robbie, he didn't, and went straight back to propose to Rachel McAdams. I don't remember their names,
but
guys.
He got
apart from
lots
Kit
of
Kat,
names
which is
to
the best
remember.
name.
I
Kit
think
Kat's
he
an
got
awesome
too
name.
close to it.
I think he did too.
It was too much of a touch and go moment for me.
And to then go from that to proposing within the space of 15 minutes.
I wish he'd just left. He'd never gone up in the lift. I would have been much happier.
Well, so at the front door.
See ya.
Fair enough.
Also, that is actually one thing I wrote down on my notes. How harsh of Margot Robbie's character when she's like, me and my friend are just going off for some food. 2 minutes later, she's like, I've sacked her off. Can you come up for dinner with me? I was like, bitch.
Well, I do that to you.
Yeah, you do. I'm used to it.
Repeat viewing. Hannah, I'm going to suspect this is going to be quite high.
So
How many times have you seen it? Do you
I have seen it. So it came out in 2013. We're in 2019. So how many years is that? 6. I've probably seen it once a year. 1 year I probably watched it twice. And then I watched it once on my phone on the way into work this morning. So I'm going to say 9 times. So I think that's got to be a 5.
Sure.
I mean, that's I don't watch that many films, so it's quite a high proportion of the films I watch.
Georgie.
I would give it, I would say 4.6.
You've seen it 5 times, you're saying?
Wait, hang on. So can you just explain to me again?
Of course we can. So repeat viewing score is kind of 2 things. It's like, if it's like an old film, it's how often you've seen it, and like how like, yeah. I'm happy
but
to
also
talk
how
about
much you enjoy rewatching it, and like some films we gave like really high recommendability, but then it was like 0 for rewatchability because it was like amazing to watch once, but you don't want to watch it again.
Yeah.
I see.
And then there's also the fact of like some films where you like, I have to watch it again because I need to understand it. So you might not watch it frequently, but then there's like, and you definitely do need to watch this again at some point to like get it properly.
So I would go on that basis. Am I allowed decimal places again?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I'm going to go
all the way through.
4.9
Oh, wow.
Wow.
because I enjoy it. I'd watch it with friends and family again and again. And I actually enjoy watching it again to better understand it.
Helen, watched it 1.3 times?
1.3 times. It's a 0 from me. I'm not going to watch this again.
I'm going to say 2. I don't think I'll watch it again that often, but
Not even to work out see if you can work
I'd
out
probably
the
just
time
Wikipedia
travel.
that. Not the time travel, just the point how the sperm thing works. The sperm conundrum in the film.
But they just say that's how it works.
You are sorry?
They just say that's how it works. Just go, all right.
What do you mean?
Science.
Just say that's how it works.
That's what they said.
No, but I don't understand what the rationale is, because I don't understand why you can't just go back to...
I think it's because
Is it because it's something they... I
it's
don't know,
the specific sperm
meeting that egg at that
meeting
moment.
that egg at that moment. And if it's not at that exact point,
Oh, so they can go beyond that.
he
but
could,
then,
but he'd get a different
Would
child
it be a
every
different
time
child?
he came back.
And that's the bit that's too random.
For me,
And the rest of the butterfly effect stuff isn't
yeah.
random enough.
yeah.
I mean, that's the thing you kind of forfeit with all time travel films. It's just like, I mean, if you went back in time already, that's fucked everything else up, and you can't go back to the same timeline you left from. But that's obviously something you put aside. But I like the fact that that random bit, like 1 in a trillion chance of that sperm meeting that egg, is too much of a random fact to. You will still have a baby, but it won't be that sperm hitting that egg at the right time.
There we go.
Okay.
Science.
We have it down. Yeah, 2. I wouldn't mind watching it again. One thing, when Sarah, my wife, came in halfway through, and she's like, "Oh, is this Richard Curtis? Oh, so when's the person going to die or be declared dead?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't know. It's not happened yet." And then Kit was like, hit the car crash, and then she's like, "Oh, there you go." But then it quickly turned from that to being something else. So I think she's like, "Oh, okay, maybe I should watch this from the start and actually see what's going on there." So it was a different film even to what she thought it was going to be based on it being Richard Curtis. Although, did someone always die in Richard Curtis' film? He got a funeral, obviously.
I don't think anyone dies in Love Actually, do they?
Yeah, no
death in there.
No death in Yesterday. Oh, we're spoiling film. Sorry,
yeah.
The film where no one dies. But then I'm going to wear funeral because that's in the title, I guess.
Yeah,
that's fine.
you would expect that.
Yeah.
At least one funeral anyway.
Small screen score. Do you want an explanation of this? Or are you?
Yes,
are you good?
please.
Yeah.
So how well does it work on your TV or Netflix scenario? So typically TV, we say. And how much better... So that gives it a high score. And if you really feel that you need to see it in the cinema to get the really big screen experience or the experience of watching with lots of other people, then it gives it a lower score.
I watched it on my phone on the
Last.
way into work.
Yeah.
this
The
morning.
smallest of them all.
So I'd say that's a pretty small screen. I would say 4.7. I don't think a huge amount is lost by watching it on a small screen.
Have you seen it in the cinema?
I haven't seen it in a cinema, but I've seen it but with lots of people in a home environment, and I quite enjoyed that, but I was still watching it on a television.
Sure. Georgie?
I would give it a 4.5. I can't remember the first time I saw it. I'm pretty sure it was in the cinema, but I can't remember. Because I think it is wonderful still on the small screen, and I can get all that I need to get from it on the small screen. But I would prefer to watch it on the big screen because I would just like to see it in a large format. I can't really explain what I mean, but I would quite like to see it on the big screen again. I just think that would be quite nice.
Helen?
I'd give it a 5. I don't think there's any need to watch it on a cinema screen.
Yeah, I'm 5 for the same reason. I think it's perfectly fine on a TV screen at home with Netflix. And was there any particular soundtrack? Does Richard Curtis do soundtracks?
I think there was songs in it. I think there's like pop songs in it.
There's lots of pop songs in it. Oh, I've forgotten.
How long will I love you?
That's the one.
That's the best.
Engagement score.
I generally tend to do something else when I'm watching a film anyway.
So that's standard. That's baseline.
That's baseline. I watch this without doing anything else, and I often watch this as a, hey, Georgie, come over and watch About Time with me again.
Okay. How many times do you guys watch it together?
Probably only
twice. Maybe?
Twice.
I think yeah. But I've also...
But is that like when you get that text, you're like, yeah, fuck yeah.
No, she's probably like, no, I don't want to. Stop making me watch the same film. So the marker for this is how engaged do I need to be for it to work? How focused on the film do I need to be for it to work? I mean, I don't think you need to be... I think you probably need to be quite focused on the film, particularly at the start, I guess, to get the fact that they're time travelling, but thereafter. I'd say 4.
4? All right. Georgie.
I'm going for a punchy 5 on this one because despite giving it a 4.3 recommendability, I think we need to go all in and just enjoy it together and have a great old time.
So when this comes on, the title card hits up, then you're like,
yeah,
Hannah, shh.
You're like that about everything.
I can't express enough how much I have needed to concentrate over this. So I would say, you do 100% need to give it your attention just to get the best from it. But then that said, when you do give it your full attention, you end up getting confused. So I don't know, I'm going to stick with my 5.
Yeah, cool. Helen?
You do need to pay attention because obviously time travel and you don't know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
I found it very long though. 2 hours, 4 minutes is a long time for me anyway.
Only if you don't like the film.
So 2.5.
2.5. I'm going to go for 4. I think you, again, based on my original preconceptions, it's completely not the film I thought it was going to be. So that kept on changing up every half hour. I was like, oh okay. So I couldn't second guess it, even though I thought I could, and my wife thought she could second guess it. So I think that does put you on your toes. Certainly the first time. In subsequent ones, probably not. Now you know where the kind of storyline's going. So yeah, 4, I reckon. And that gives us an overall score of 3.86875.
That's pretty good.
Yeah.
We always say anything over a 3 is pretty strong.
So we reached out to our peoples on Twitter, as we always do before going to record, and said, we're recording About Time with Hannah Russ and Georgie _Grier. Have you seen it? Tell us your thoughts for an on-air shout-out on Flixwatcher and give us your 5-star rating and a short review. So we had a few responses. Hannah, do you want to take the first one?
Do I need to read out their name as well?
Ideally.
At IMDb Journey says, such an incredibly feel-good romantic comedy that balances both of those genres out perfectly. The chemistry is fantastic, the story progresses naturally and paced so well. Couldn't keep my eyes off this one, and Bill Nighy may just go for the greatest movie dad of all time. 4.5 out of 5, and then they've got a really great GIF that I'm going to reuse, I think.
That is lovely.
Would you guys class this super... I mean, if someone's tried to sell this to me as a romantic comedy, that's probably what stopped me in my tracks watching it earlier, but I don't really think it is so much of a romantic comedy. Obviously, that's a big factor of it.
I would definitely say it is a rom-com. Because it's romantic and I laughed and that's all I can go off.
Did
you not think it was...
I think it's a rom-com,
either
but it's
romantic or comedy?
No, I think it's definitely a rom-com, but it's, for me, that's such a throwaway comment sometimes, but I think there was more to it than just being a rom-com.
And when you call something a rom-com, I think it often is sometimes in a derogatory way, or sort of saying like it's
it shouldn't be.
Which it shouldn't be, I don't think. But I think it can, lead you to think it's a certain type of romantic comedy that might be romantic and might make you laugh.
Because we've had When Harry Met Sally is our highest scoring film on here, followed by To All the Boys I Loved Before is second highest. So we're not averse to rom-coms here, but they are. It does follow the story of the rom-com to the end, where it's the characters. Where here it's after the first half, it isn't necessarily about the couple. Is my kind of thing. It is more about the other people in the story. That's why to say it's a rom-com, I think I wouldn't say it does it a disservice, but doesn't tell the whole story of the genre which it might sit in uniquely.
I think there's a lot of love in it. It's just not necessarily always between the couple. I think there's like familial love and there's friendship love. And so
love comedy.
Love comedy.
Love comedy.
Yeah.
A new genre he's inventing.
Yeah. Richard Curtis love comedy. George, do you want to take the second quote?
Yep. Clifford Hamblin at Cliff H in NJ says 4 stars. It's a very touching story that has a time travel theme, but is really about a son's love for his father and his wife. Also, how he manipulates time to ensure those relationships happen. Sweet film.
Yeah, I'd say sweet film. I think that's a nice kind of surmise of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. We did have someone else who tried to give us a link to a letterbox, but we're going to ignore that because they could have just given us a little
Yeah.
tweet.
I mean, we do this every time we record. Do follow us on Twitter and we'll do a little GIF with a shout out of our guests and what film we're going to be reviewing. And we would love to have your reviews, not your links to your letterboxes, please.
I think one trope in this film was like Rachel McAdams. What's her name again?
Mary.
Feeling that she's like super dowdy and stuff is like, I mean, you're not really.
No.
in any way.
Isn't this also the second, maybe third film she's been time travelled?
Tell me
The
the
Time
others.
Traveller's Wife with
Was
Eric
she in
Bana.
that?
Oh, yeah.
Was she in that one?
Yes.
I've never seen that. Again, this is a film just by the title. I'm not going to watch it. Is it good though? Time Traveller's Wife?
I
Yeah, it
really
is.
like the book.
Or do you need to take a book?
Yeah.
Book's amazing.
That's what a lot of people
I think
say.
I'm not sure. I'm trying to think now. My brain wants to say it has seen it, but I'm not sure. It might just be me putting her in all the bits in the book. Because
Does she
Eric
actually
Bana
time
as
travel?
well.
Does she actually time travel in the book film?
Man.
Yeah. it's-
Man
why
time-
is all this
time travelling.
No, women
manpower
are doing
in
it.
time
Yeah.
traveling?
Hold on, let's think about this. When, apart from Jennifer in Back to the Future, when she's kind of foisted into the car against her will,
But then she doesn't
When-
even get to do much action.
but that's
because
what I'm
she
saying. Apart from
bonked
that,
out.
when do women time travel?
What about Alex Mack?
Looper?
Did she
Is-
time travel?
Does she time travel?
Do you remember that?
I remember.
programme?
Yeah.
Or did she just go invisible? Maybe.
She-
I'm not
TV.
Didn't she turn
Doctor
into
Who?
goo?
What was the lady who was
Oh,
actress? Are we allowed to
Jodie-
talk about TV?
Yeah, Jodie Whittaker.
Jodie Whittaker.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The fact that we're thinking hard about this is
Yeah.
we need to resolve this, guys.
There's
Definitely.
a niche.
there is.
Script writers out there.
Get some women time travelling.
What was that film with Samantha Mumba?
The Time Machine?
The Time Machine.
With, what's his name? Guy Pearce.
Did she travel? Did she time travel in that? Was that?
I don't know.
Guy
Isn't
Pearce?
it based on Thingy's book? So it
Guys.
probably will be the men.
Samantha Mumba was in a film.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't she a singer?
Yeah.
She was
Oh, interesting.
like Beyonce
J-Lo.
and J-Lo,
Ah.
Madonna, Justin Timberlake, and so Dr. Dre. There's quite a few. Snoop Dogg. Directors out there, producers, people with stories.
Make me a female time traveling romantic comedy.
Absolutely.
Now.
I think.
Yes.
Well, not necessarily romantic comedy, but just time travel.
I mean,
time traveling lady.
Make it a romantic comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want women time traveling. I don't-
With zombies.
It can be
then.
horror. It can be like just pure sci-fi, but just women time traveling in films.
It's a
More,
brief.
please.
Make it happen.
Make it so. Guys, thank you very much for joining us. Can you sign off by telling us where we can find you online and give us direction to your companies and your podcasts?
Go on, Hannah. Go on, Georgie. Okay. I'm Georgie. You can find me over on Instagram at Screenster UK. You can find my podcast. It's called the Screenster Podcast. I'd love to get you listening. And you can find me over on Twitter at Georgie_Grier.
I'm Hannah. You can find me at mags.creative on Instagram. And that's where you can see all of the details of the podcast that we also make.
Thank you very much, guys, and see you later.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for coming
much.
on.
Bye.
Bye.
Enjoyed this episode of Flixwatcher Podcast? Why not leave us a 5-star review on iTunes? You can also follow us at FlixWatcherPod on Twitter, and we're at FlixWatcher on Instagram. Thanks as always to the mighty people for their mighty, mighty tunes, and Ben from Rockwood Audio for his awesome editing skills. If you're looking to get your podcast edited as sweet as this, get in touch with Ben, and that's Rockwood, ROKK Wood Audio. Tell them Flixwatcher sent you.
You just heard a Stripped Media production.